Hi there. Thanks for joining me. My name is Caitlin, and this is a practice for self-compassion. In an easy seated position, that may look like your legs crossed, or maybe straight out, or maybe you're sitting on your heels. Begin to tap in and find your breath. Perhaps if it feels safe, close your eyes or bring them to a soft, heavy gaze in front of you. Start to notice the sensations around you. Maybe the floor underneath you, the feel of the air against your skin. Start to notice where your breath is at today, without changing it, without making any adjustments or judgments. Just notice. Today's practice about self-compassion is rooted around the concept of ahimsa, or nonviolence. And in our practice, that may look like giving ourselves grace when things feel difficult, and allowing ourselves rest when we need it. Nonviolence includes towards others, but definitely and foremostly ourselves. So as you take time today during today's practice, consider what ahimsa may look like throughout your movements. We'll begin with some shoulder rolls. When you're ready, flutter your eyes open and begin to make large or small circles with your shoulders backwards. We'll do this 3 to 5 times, and following our breath as much as possible. When it feels good, maybe alternating, rotating your shoulders in the opposite direction, maybe coming forward this time. Again, following your breath. If it feels good, you can close your eyes. You'll notice I have my eyes closed for a lot of my practice. It helps me to tune in. And then we'll start transitioning into some neck rolls, bringing one ear to one shoulder and rotating chin to chest, meeting the other ear with the other shoulder, and following our breath as it is our guide through our movement. One more round or so. And then I invite you to switch your leg position so that if your legs were crossed, now they may be crossed the other direction. And we're going to directly go into some torso circles. Maybe hands come to knees and we push our chest forward, heart comes through. And then as you rotate towards the other side and your spine curls back, you circle through to the other side. And maybe going in the opposite direction, giving your body some balance, following our breath. On your next inhale, arms come up towards the sky, and exhale, we'll twist towards one side. If it feels good, the neck can follow towards the back shoulder. Inhale, arms come up, And we'll switch sides, rotating towards the other side. Remembering to breathe. And coming back, we'll do one more on each side, rotating towards the side you were on first. Remembering your breath. And transitioning to the other side. Next, we'll transition into tabletop or hands and knees. And you'll see that I'm using a blanket to support my knees, give them an extra cushion underneath. And I invite you to use any props you may have nearby to make your practice more comfortable. We're going to root down into all of the fingers and palms of our hands. And we'll arch our back up towards the sky. Maybe chin comes to chest. And then we'll drop the belly down low. Maybe smile to ourselves. Spine comes up like a cat. And then belly drops into cow pose. We'll take this a few more rounds, following our breath as it feels good in our bodies. On your next breath, we're going to begin to rotate our knees and our wrists, drawing circles. And it's a little silly, so don't be too serious about it. Just do it how it feels good in your body. It may look different from mine. And we'll go the opposite way now. Drawing circles with our hips and our wrists towards the other direction. And coming back to neutral, we will place one hand in front of our face. The other hand will draw up towards the sky. Maybe look towards it. And that arm will go underneath the other. We're reaching up towards the sky, maybe a couple times, and then finding rest. Perhaps resting our shoulder and cheek against the ground. You'll see I reach for a block here. You can use a pillow as well underneath your head to give yourself a little more support if that's feeling good today. And just remember to breathe here. We'll gently come back out, neutralize, and shift to the other side. So arm comes up, maybe reaches through. Arm comes up again, maybe reaches through again. And on this third time, we will find rest. Whether on the block, a pillow, or the floor. Remembering to breathe. Remembering to honor your body where it's at today. Remembering self-compassion. And we'll come back out of that, neutralize how it feels good in our bodies, and maybe reach for a bolster if that's available, or a pillow. We're going to take the knees wide, sit the hips back. They may not reach the ankles, and that's okay. And we're going to lean forward, resting our face or cheek on our support. Hands may wrap around the bolster or pillow if that feels good. You can also reach forward or reach back in this child's pose. And we'll take a few moments here to rest, noticing how our body feels after doing some light warm-up. The thing I offer is a suggestion. You are autonomous and empowered to make your own decisions during this practice. We'll take a few more rounds of breath here. And gently press your hands into the floor, lifting your chest and coming back up onto your heels if that feels good. We're just going to transition to our next position. For our next pose, we'll be setting up with a couple of props if they are available. However, if props are not available today, don't worry, you can do this without them. We're going to place one block on the second setting, one block on the highest setting, and maybe a bolster across them, creating a ramp. And I put my blanket at the top to kind of support my head. So make the decisions that feel good to you. We're going to sit with our hips at the base of the bolster. Legs can come out wide or they can be in a bound angle position. We'll slowly recline onto our ramp and find a good position for our hands. Maybe they feel supportive as you breathe, feeling your breath move through your body on your chest and belly. Your hands may also come to the sides if that feels good. And we'll be here for a few moments, just breathing, feeling, noticing. With every breath, thinking compassionately towards ourselves and making the actions necessary that infuse that compassion. Taking a few more rounds of deep breath here. We'll begin to transition into our next pose. Bring some light movement into your toes and fingers, and maybe place your hands behind you to lift yourself up or roll off to one side. For our next pose, we'll take the bolster or pillows and blanket that were behind us, and we'll be placing them on top of our legs as our legs are outstretched forward, and we will find a gentle forward fold in this seated position. Here I'm using blocks to raise up my support so that my head doesn't have to reach so far, and take as much time as you need to adjust your props accordingly. Make yourself as comfortable as possible. We'll be here for a few moments of breath. Take one more full, complete breath, and then maybe gently push yourself up back to a neutral seated position. Removing our props, just placing them off to the side for now. We will use them in our next pose, which is a head to knee stretch. So with one leg bent and one leg stretched out, maybe place the bolster or pillow on top of the leg that's stretched out and find a forward fold over that outstretched leg. Perhaps your shoulders are facing your foot. And remember to breathe. You can stack a block or a pillow on top of your leg to bring the support closer to your head, if that feels good. And gently come back out of that stretch, and we'll switch sides. So props come to the other leg as it stretches out, and your opposite leg comes knee bent as much as feels comfortable. And we'll slowly fold over the outstretched leg with the props on top. Remember your breath. Remember compassion. Take one more breath in this stretch, and when you feel ready, go ahead and support yourself back up to a neutral seated position. Removing the props, placing them off to the side. And we're gonna transition to lying on our back. I have a blanket rolled up for my neck as support, and I'm shifting my hips down the mat so that my neck reaches the blanket. Feet are flat on the floor, knees up towards the sky. Shimmy our bolster or pillow underneath our hips. Knees can stay bent or they can stretch out long if that feels good. And maybe arms are out wide. In this supported bridge position, we can allow ourselves to feel supported by the props as we succumb to gravity and allow ourselves to rest. There's no need to do anything or achieve anything at this moment. Let your worries go, and you can pick them up later if you choose to do so. Remember your breath. Allow it to be your guide. We'll take one more inhale here. And we'll exhale, maybe transitioning our props from underneath us, moving them out of the way. Maybe bringing knees into chest, giving ourselves a little hug. Maybe rock side to side if it feels good. And we'll place one foot on the floor, knee bent, and the opposite ankle will meet the knee that is bent. Maybe reach through to the back of the thigh for the figure 4 stretch or reclined pigeon. Remember to flex your feet. Keep your feet engaged if it feels good. And if this doesn't feel good, you can always leave the foot flat on the floor. You can always keep a bend out of the knee too. And we'll slowly transition to the other side. Maybe wiggling our feet a little bit and our knees, windshield wiper a few times, and transitioning the opposite ankle to the opposite bent knee. Maybe finding our hands meet behind the thigh, if that feels good. Take one more breath here and slowly release. Maybe feet come flat to the floor. Maybe you wiggle your knees out a little bit and just notice how your body feels. Is it different from when you started the practice today? Maybe take in any observations, make any final movements or adjustments that feel necessary, and we'll find a final resting position that feels good to us. This may look like any of the positions we previously did in today's practice, or I invite you to perhaps take a savasana shape, which is lying flat on the floor, arms and legs long. Maybe eyes come to a close, and we breathe. If you have the time and space, I invite you to stay here for a few breaths to soak in all of the compassion that you showed yourself today. Take one more big, deep inhale and one final heavy exhale. And maybe bring some light movement to your fingers and toes, your ankles and your wrists. Maybe nod your neck from side to side. And when you feel ready, maybe roll to one side in transition to find a seated position. And go ahead and flutter your eyes open if you haven't already. Thank you again for joining me for today's practice for compassion.